In 1892, a hardened French soldier scrawled in his journal, "These women were more fearsome than any men we had ever faced." He wasn't writing fiction, he was documenting the Dahomey Amazons, Africa's all-female military elite, trained to kill without mercy, conditioned to feel no pain, sworn to lifelong celibacy for their king. Armed or unarmed, they were lethal warriors. To their enemies, they were demons. To their kingdom, salvation. To history, nearly erased. But not today. Today, we're uncovering the true story of the Dahomey Amazons, 6,000 women who stood as the last defense against colonial conquest. This is African history you were never taught. What if I told you that one of Africa's most powerful kingdoms was built not by kings alone, but by women? Women who could outfight, outlast, and outthink any man sent against them. Nestled in the coastal region of West Africa, in what is now the Republic of Benin, the Kingdom of Dahomey emerged as a formidable power in the 17th century. This kingdom occupied a strategic position along important trade routes that connected the interior of the continent with coastal trading posts. The geographical location that initially fueled Dahomey's rise would later become its greatest vulnerability, a crossroads coveted by neighboring African kingdoms and European colonial powers alike. This strategic position along vital trade routes, surrounded by powerful neighbors like the Oyo Empire and various Yoruba states, forced Dahomey to develop a militaristic culture. Constant threats of invasion shaped it into a highly centralized state with an unconventional approach to warfare. The kingdom transformed into an impregnable fortress where divine authority blended with tactical ingenuity. At its center sat the king, considered semi-divine and wielding absolute power. Known as Dada, father to his people, he controlled every aspect of the kingdom through elaborate court rituals, emphasizing his connection to ancestral spirits. His authority echoed through vast palace compounds, where footsteps of servants and soldiers alike fell silent in reverence. Under rulers like King Wekbaja and his successors, Dahomey expanded from a small tributary state into a regional power. Military successes allowed it to absorb neighboring territories, creating buffer zones while capturing valuable resources and people many sold into slavery. Dahomey's relationship with the transatlantic slave trade revealed complex moral compromises. As European demand grew, Dahomey conducted raids on neighboring communities, selling captives to European traders for firearms and luxury goods, strengthening itself militarily while becoming dependent on European commerce. During King Agaja's reign in the early 18th century, emerged the first seeds of what would become legendary female warriors. Within the sprawling palace compounds, housing the king and his many wives, tradition forbade men from entering certain areas after nightfall. This security challenge spawned an innovative solution: recruiting women as guards. Initially drawn from the king's third-class wives, these female sentinels performed ceremonial duties, protecting royal apartments. As regional tensions intensified, they received military training. Their exceptional performance and loyalty transformed them from palace protectors to battlefield warriors, a metamorphosis from traditional guards to revolutionary fighters. Dahomey's governmental structure, combining absolute monarchy with meritocratic military organization, created the perfect environment for this female fighting force to flourish. Unlike other African kingdoms restricting women to domestic duties, Dahomey's pragmatic approach allowed women to prove their value as warriors, elevating them to an elite fighting force that would soon become legendary. The elevation to elite warrior status came at an extraordinary price. Imagine being a 14-year-old girl, selected for your strength and promise, then subjected to training so brutal that many wouldn't survive it, all to become something the world had never seen before. A member of history's most feared female fighting force. The journey began with selection. Young girls were identified through various channels, some volunteered by families seeking favor with the king, others captured during military campaigns, and many chosen specifically for their physical attributes. The kingdom needed only the strongest candidates, as the training would eliminate all but the most resilient. This initial screening opened the gateway to a transformation process designed to remake these young women entirely. Yesterday, I was a daughter with dreams of my own. One warrior later recalled, "Today, I am iron being hammered into something unbreakable." Like ore in a merciless forge, initiates endured the infamous acacia branch ordeal. Thorns deliberately embedded into their skin to teach them that pain was merely a sensation to be conquered through will. The sacred vow of celibacy formed the cornerstone of the warrior identity. Though ceremonially married to the king, these women were forbidden from sexual relations with any man, including the king himself. This prohibition severed their connection to civilian life and forged an unbreakable bond among the warriors. Their existence became defined solely by their role as protectors of the kingdom. Training created distinct warrior specialties within the all-female army. Some became expert musket women, mastering firearms with deadly accuracy. Others developed into skilled archers, while close combat fighters underwent the most intense physical conditioning, preparing to face enemies directly. Physical conditioning pushed beyond human limits. Warriors scaled thorn-covered walls, each handhold delivering searing pain. Mock battles frequently turned lethal, with real weapons and consequences. Death during training was expected. Survival exercises thrust them into dense jungle with minimal supplies, developing instincts that would keep them alive behind enemy lines. The psychological transformation proved equally profound. Warriors were conditioned to see themselves as superior to male soldiers. Fear responses were systematically dismantled through repeated exposure to terror. European observers later described the results with stunned disbelief. Women who charged directly toward gunfire without flinching, continuing their advance even with mortal wounds. This conditioning's effectiveness was demonstrated repeatedly on battlefields. European military officers documented how Dahomey's female warriors continued fighting despite devastating injuries. One warrior, shot multiple times, pulled herself toward an enemy position, weapon in hand, determined to complete her final kill before dying. Not an exaggeration, but consistent observations from battle-hardened colonial soldiers who had fought across multiple continents. When French commanders instructed their troops to target the women warriors first, it wasn't misplaced fear, it was tactical necessity. On the battlefield, the Dahomey Amazons presented a sight that sent chills through enemy ranks. Their distinctive tunics and shorts immediately distinguished them from male soldiers, making them recognizable even amid the chaos of combat. Across their bodies, white symbols were painted, markings that likely served multiple purposes from spiritual protection to rank identification. This striking appearance served as psychological warfare, designed to intimidate opponents before combat began. Like organisms adapting for survival, their arsenal evolved with warfare's changing landscape. Early Amazons relied on flintlock muskets and traditional weapons, gradually incorporating European military technology as it spread through West Africa. By the late 19th century, they wielded cannons, modern artillery, and machine guns. The most skilled archers utilized specialized hooked arrows coated with poison, creating weapons that could incapacitate enemies, even with non-fatal wounds. The military tactics evolved from straightforward aggression to sophisticated strategy. What truly distinguished the Amazons was the signature three-wave attack strategy that overwhelmed opponents through coordinated assault. The first wave destabilized enemy formations, the second exploited weaknesses, and the third delivered the finishing blow. As National Geographic researchers have noted, this methodical approach, executed with unwavering discipline, created a formidable force on the battlefield. Their combat style favored close-quarters engagement, a preference that terrified opponents. While skilled with ranged weapons, many Amazons sought personal confrontation. European accounts describe warriors who, having emptied their muskets, would charge directly into enemy lines armed with machetes rather than reload. One French soldier described having his weapon knocked away by an Amazon, who then took him down and tore out his throat with her teeth. Calculated terror tactics rather than random savagery. The Amazons repeatedly proved their effectiveness against formidable opponents. Their battles against the Oyo Empire demonstrated their tactical value, often outperforming their male counterparts. Their prowess was displayed during the kingdom's annual ceremonies, where they demonstrated combat skills in elaborate performances that sometimes included human sacrifices honoring fallen kings. Their elite status translated into substantial wealth. Successful warriors received royal gifts, collected tributes from conquered territories, and claimed spoils from campaigns. Many were provided personal slaves, cementing their position in the social hierarchy. Despite their celibate status, they wielded tremendous influence. The Franco-Dahomean Wars brought these warriors into direct conflict with one of Europe's most powerful militaries. French veterans were stunned by their ferocity, with one officer writing of seeing comrades beheaded in a single engagement. Numerous accounts describe Amazons charging into gunfire, sometimes reaching French positions despite multiple wounds. Not fanaticism, but the result of conditioning that transformed them into warriors who believed death was preferable to defeat. Their unwavering commitment to battle had brought them glory for generations, but by 1890, the Amazons faced an adversary unlike any before. The French colonial machine, methodical, industrialized, and unyielding, set its sights on Dahomey with conquest as the only acceptable outcome. This wasn't merely another border skirmish, but the beginning of an existential struggle that would decide the fate of an entire kingdom. General Alfred Amédée Dodds led the French forces, a diverse coalition, including the French Foreign Legion and Tirailleurs Sénégalais. though outnumbered by Dahomean forces, which at times swelled to 10,000 fighters, including the Amazons. The French possessed a devastating technological advantage. Their repeating rifles and machine guns would transform the battlefield when facing warriors trained primarily for close combat. The Battle of Dogbar in September 1892 revealed the Amazons' tactical brilliance against overwhelming odds. Dahomean forces launched a surprise attack that initially pushed back French units. Amazons positioned sharpshooters in trees. The accurate fire killing a French Marine commander and several officers. The tide turned when French machine guns responded, cutting down advancing warriors who continued charging forward despite impossible odds. At the pivotal Battle of Cana, the brutality of this uneven contest reached its peak. French forces initiated the attack but met ferocious resistance. Amazons fought with such determination that they drove back the French multiple times. As the battle progressed, the technological disparity became increasingly apparent. By its conclusion, approximately 2,500 Dahomean fighters lay dead, compared to around 100 French casualties, a devastating ratio that foretold the kingdom's fate. King Behanzin's opposition to French colonial ambitions had triggered the Second Franco-Dahomean War, but his brave stance couldn't prevent defeat. Many Amazons fought to the last, choosing death over surrender. Those who survived faced a shattered kingdom and the destruction of the social order that had elevated them. The Amazons might have been erased from history if not for Nawi, the last surviving warrior who passed away in 1979 at over 100 years old. Her remarkable life spanned from colonial resistance to independence. As colonial powers attempted to obscure the Amazons' history, Nawi remained a living testament to their fighting spirit, a human bridge connecting generations across time. During colonial rule, European accounts diminished the Amazons' achievements, portraying them as exotic curiosities rather than the elite military force they were. These distortions served the colonial project by undermining African military sophistication. The truth proved too powerful to remain buried. Their legacy has experienced a resurgence, influencing scholarly reassessments and popular culture through the Dora Milaje in Black Panther and The Woman King. Though defeated by superior technology, the Amazons have triumphed in the longer war for historical memory, revealing female agency and military excellence in pre-colonial Africa. The Dahomey Amazons' existence confronts the colonial lens that has long obscured African achievement, particularly regarding women's contributions. They remind us that history's margins often hold its most powerful truths. As historian Pamela Tola explains, their legacy proves that women are stronger than society thinks they are, than even they themselves may believe. This counter-narrative challenges us to question whose stories we've accepted as definitive and whose we've overlooked. The Amazons stand as testaments to female strength and African ingenuity that colonial powers tried to diminish. Their story represents a reclaiming of deliberately suppressed narratives that reshape our understanding of history and perhaps even our own identities. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the Dahomey Amazons, hit that like button, subscribe to History's Africa, and share this video with anyone hungry for Africa's untold stories.